girl T, D Moyo, and this right here is the Roundtable. And today we're gonna talk up all of the things and them. Today we're gonna get right into it and we're talking about pop culture. Are you guys ready? Yeah. You guys feeling good in that? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna jump right into it for a game I like to call Talking the Hardest, inspired by some South London pop culture, aka Gigs SN1. But yeah, so the way this game works is like this. I'm gonna say a term, or I might say a little phrase, a little word, and I just wanna hear what you guys think, what's popping. Is that cool? Yeah. All right, we'll get right into it. Hashtag Me Too. What comes to mind?
Awareness.
Awareness.
R. Kelly.
Oh, she went straight there.
Straight in there. What did you say, Junior? Women, yeah. Most definitely.
Selfies.
Elaborate a bit more, guys. The Me Too movement has, it's been big in a lot of public spaces, the Oscars, the Grammys, it's been big online. And just as young millennials, where do you feel like you fit into the Me Too movement right now?
For me personally, I feel like the Me Too movement is things that are from the older generation that are being that are being brought to the forefront now. So where I fit in is not, I don't feel part of it. I just feel like it's exposing things that happen in the dark.
Not necessarily, because when you look at the ideas behind the Me Too movement, it's about, you know, women in certain circumstances feeling abused, right?
Yeah,
and so what happens is that's generational, that's passed down. These are habits that are cultural and that are passed down. So like there's a young generation of boys that, you know, like with the sexting thing that kids were going through in school and all of that stuff, that's part of that as well. And so it's on learning those things. So to detach it and make it something about the older generation is actually not accurate, because actually these are ideas like that, you know, female empowerment is something that should be a given now, but it's not. 100%. Do you get what I'm saying? And so that's not like an old people problem. That's a problem that I feel like this generation needs to face full front as well.
But we talk about it more now, don't we? Like,
I don't think we talk about it more. I just think it's easy to hear about it because of technology. I think it's been going on for years now. I mean, if you guys look back to generations and generations, even before Christ, males were superior to females. And that's gone down, as Femi was saying, into generations, and now you're seeing it not in the forefront of, you know, men stay at home and women do, you know.
More gender equality. I totally feel you. I'd love to hear from the ladies.
Yeah,
like,
I think.
Just where's your position on that, and where do you fit into the Me Too movement?
Yeah, I think from a female perspective, I think it's also knowing your rights and knowing what should be the norm. So I think, to your point, it is true that these are culturally something that has been passed down, but also from females, I think we tend to sort of accept things or not to have a voice. And I think with people in the corporate world and in every industry, like good female leaders that are now coming up, they've given us the ability to be at the table, to have a voice, to know what our rights are and what is right or wrong. So if, like 20 years ago, if like an older man in the acting industry was to take advantage of a woman, she'd probably think, oh, that's the norm, that's what I have to do to get ahead. But now we know as our females what our dignity is, what our honor is, and what our rights are, and that anything that falls below that, we're not gonna say yes to it, and we don't have to, and we know that we don't have to accept these things anymore.
1,000%.
So I think it's giving females that voice and giving females that confidence to know that just because a lot of industries we're in are run by men doesn't mean that we need to yield to what standards have been put in place before us.
From what Martin has said, when you were talking about it's been in the past and stuff, I have personal experience. I'm from this generation, and I have personal experience, and I can remember when Me Too came out, and I also remember when I was molested when I was younger, and when I approached my parents and I told my parents, and the look of, come on, get out, like, how can you make up such a story? Because this person was from in the family. And I remember I was so hurt. I was like, wow, they don't believe me. So I kind of kept it in. I'm not one of those like people where something happens to you and then it didn't affect your whole life. I think I didn't have that route, but I know I couldn't. No one heard me, and I just kind of moved on.
And now people, you know, they're open to the conversation. People are being heard, and I think that's so important. And I think that's possibly where we all fit in. I'm gonna move on to something totally different. Love Island.
Oh God.
No. It's important.
I think it's important.
Why did you have to bring that up?
Let me just say something.
You have time.
I can work a 12-hour day, but when I go home, I need a cup of tea and a Love Island. It relaxes my nerves. So what, we're not watching Love Island
Do you know what? Can we explain how that works to me?
Can you
I want to learn about
the aftermath of Love Island, I don't comprehend naked
can we
people.
break it down?
Like, I don't get it.
Let's break it down. Do you know what it is? I can accept that it might be a trash show.
It is, not it might be.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Shall I tell you what it is? I don't actually think it's the show that's what makes it entertaining. Is the fact that every single person who's watching it and then the banter on the timeline, that's what makes it entertaining.
Yeah, the engagement, I suppose.
But then I guess it's kind of visualizing, to break it down, is people are put into a house, they have to couple up, and then the couple who stays together the longest is the one who wins.
Can't you just do this outside?
But then kind of, isn't that how dating is kind of like that now? It's so quick and it's kind of
It's a
fickle.
swipe, isn't it?
So
Nowadays, everything's a click.
you're if you talk to someone for like, let's say 3 months, now you're an item, like automatically, like whether you say something or you don't say something. So I feel like Love Island is a true representation of, you might not like the people who are in it, but the framework of Love Island is how people get into relationships.
When they just go on holiday for the chef one of it and come out and see reality.
I've been on holiday and fell in love.
I don't think
100%.
we can blame the contestants. 'Cause I think if we ask the question to every single person on this table right now, would you go on Love Island? Which, bearing in mind, in retrospect, puts you probably a couple 100,000 more followers than what you have already, a blue tick,
and investment
and
and
sponsorship.
endorsements.
I got that shit.
Don't hold back.
And you know what they say in this generation as well, like attention and social media following is seen as a new
But
currency.
that is the danger of Love Island, and there are people that have unfortunately lost their lives because of this show, because it is the height of social media, it's the height of Instagram influencers, because it's the height of being scrutinized on every single thing you're doing, and then people talking about what you're doing and people who are talking about what you're talking about, what they're doing. And I honestly think that, and social media is like a big passion of mine, because I feel like we need to control it because it's affecting people's mental health. Like people at the end of the day are not being able to handle the level of scrutiny that they're getting.
I agree, but I just feel like it's part and parcel of the way life works now. I feel like in
that should be accepted.
No, but in whatever sector you work in whatever sector you work within, you're going to be scrutinized on social media, or you're going to get messages saying, "Oh, Femi, I watched that film, I didn't like it, was rubbish." Like, and
But
you know,
it's a different level. It's a different level.
no, but it's 100,000.
But you've chosen to
But I've
take that
chosen
step.
to be part of
Yeah.
that movement. I've chosen
that.
I've decided. I've woken up one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love the fame and accolade that comes with Love Island. Then you have to be prepared for the other side as well.
Of course.
And so I just feel like, you know, we can sit here and we can blame like, you know, production companies and TV channels, but ultimately what you have to remember is that people choose to go onto these shows, but what the shows should do is offer support when
Exactly,
people come
that's
out.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. I mean, like, you look at Jeremy Kyle and what happened,
Yeah,
like the fact
exactly.
that they had to take
Exactly.
it down because someone killed themselves because of what happened on the show and how toxic that show was. And they didn't really have proper aftercare. They made out like they did, but they didn't really. And so with these shows that have the potential to be toxic, you need there to be lots of aftercare.
Because people choose what they want to go. I agree with you, we're all adults, we're all consenting, it's responsible. But a lot of the time, we don't know what we want and we don't know what the implications are of our choices. And that's why the government regulates so many things and loads of other third-party people regulate things. And social media is not regulated. It's one of the new things that haven't been watched over. So I feel like it's the role of people who have that, you know, knowledge
But
to help out.
regulating, I think in the long run is going to affect people's businesses.
Well, I don't think that this show is necessarily the problem, but I think these shows are symptoms of a deeper problem. Like, why do we need Love Island? Because people crave love. People like to watch other people being in love because they're looking for real love themselves. So where is a place where we can find real love rather than trying to, you know, I've never watched Love Island, but I'm listening to what everyone's saying. I think that rather than trying to tackle the symptoms, which we so often do in society, there must be a core problem. Yeah. And I think the core problem is we were created to be in relationship with something bigger than ourselves. And we'll keep trying to fill that with other things until we find that. So I think I don't feel the need to go on Love Island. I don't feel the need to have a couple hundred more £1,000. I don't feel the need to have a couple hundred more thousand followers. If that comes, then great, but you know, what's the purpose? Because when I die, None of that stays. It's the legacy that you leave behind.
What is the purpose?
For me?
For you, and what is the bigger thing? What is this relationship that you know that you have?
I think when Jesus left the earth, he said, go into all the world, make disciples of all men. And he also said that I'll be with you till the end of days. So I think that's our job, it's that simple. Why else are we here? Either God's real or he's not. If he's real, it's worth everything. If he's not, it's worth nothing. I believe he's real, so that's what my life's about. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have probably been seeing online Kanye West's Sunday services. What do you guys think? I think they might be kind of dope. So what do you guys think?
I think what he's doing is wicked. He's bringing up his family into a Christian community. I mean, how often have we seen that where a celebrity openly creates a church service for their family and puts it out there in the open? I think what he's doing is amazing. I think the only problem is Kanye West, and where Kanye West goes, there's going to be controversy.
Yeah, literally.
I'll be honest with you. If I think anybody else done that, even if Drake done that with his family, I don't think there'd be any controversy about it.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the fact that he's so publicly worshipping God, and he's not asked nobody for their money, he's not asked nobody to invest. He's just saying, listen, 100%. I'm going out to the country on a Sunday. Me and my choir are gonna just worship. We're gonna play with music. And let me tell you something. Yeah, he's controversial, but half of these lots pastors are controversial.
Yeah, exactly.
Half of these deacons are controversial. So we're gonna point at one man's. If we're gonna point at Kanye's controversy, you better start pointing at all the other mega churches and the small African churches. And dare I say,
Range Rovers.
Do you know what it is? I feel like this whole Kanye is standing on Christianity and all of that stuff. I just feel it's so complex. People in the public eye. Like for me, I never go out and say, yeah, I'm a Christian, because actually there's some things that I might do that's not Christ-like. And so what it does to young Christians that don't understand my actions is that they look at me and they'll be like, oh, do you know, they either look at me and think, oh yeah, because Femi did that, that's cool, I can do it as well. But these are issues that I'm still working out myself, do you get what I'm saying? But because of who I am, it's playing out in the public eye. And then you've got on the other level, you've got non-Christians being like, haha, look at him. He said he's a Christian and he's doing that. And so it's really difficult for I'm not Kanye. But I've been acting, filmmaking for 15, going on 20 years now. And so things that you do, you're a bit like, oh my gosh, not everything fits into, could I show this to my pastor on Sunday? No, but then I'm here and I'm turning up and I'm drinking Hennessy and I'm doing all of this madness. I'm not saying you can't but there's certain times I feel like some of my actions are not reflective of Christianity.
And so that restricts you.
And so that restricts me. And that's why I'm like, you know what? A lot of Kanye's actions, he could be doing Sunday service, singing Christian songs and all of that stuff. But then on that same Sunday service, he's singing non-Christian songs. Do you get what I'm saying? The choir, do you get what I'm saying? The choir is singing
what is a non-Christian song? What is a Christian song?
Sexy R&B songs.
Can I ask, is that really
sexual
what's happening?
R&B songs.
They usually change the words. They adapt the words.
I'm done.
No, but do you get my point though? So ultimately, it's complex, and we can't be we can't be simplistic. Kanye's faith is for Kanye, but we shouldn't be holding it up as a beacon of Christianity.
Can I just ask a question? From what you said, I just want to clarify that during the Sunday service, he doesn't just sing Christian music or gospel music. He mixes art, because I did not know this.
So anything that they take, for example, if they take an old R&B song, they won't sing the original R&B lyrics. They will always adapt. They will always edit the lyrics.
Okay.
For the purpose.
Me, I'm just you know what? It's just it's a great area. It's a great area for me.
It's like Marmite. You're either gonna love it or you're not gonna love it.
No, on a musical level, I love it, but I just don't think we should hold it up as a beacon of true Christianity.
But then what is the beacon of true Christianity?
I don't think mature Christians are holding.
Exactly. So there's nobody on this earth that is Jesus anyway.
I don't think that the mature Christian is holding Kanye up as a
but Kanye's influence is not over the mature Christian.
No,
Kanye's
but hear me
influence is over non-Christians and over young Christians. It's not your pastor's not watching Kanye.
But you get what I'm saying? But is the gospel being preached though?
Yes.
Can I just say something? I was watching a show yesterday, and the ministry was just about songs of praise, and the whole service was singing.
Was this Kanye?
No.
Are you talking about the one with the old white ladies on BBC One?
No. This was
it's
like
another one.
an African channel.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I found myself there last night. But yeah, and all they did was just sing and sing and sing and sing. And I realized that even in my mom's a vicar, even in church, I'm not ministered through sermon. I'm ministered through music. And that's just myself. And I know when Mommy, don't kill me, Sha. But when my mom starts her sermon, there are people that are listening, I'm just like, it's not, I don't feel it.
Yeah,
but as soon as praise and worship kicks in, I feel it deep. And that's why Kanye might be reaching the masses, but he is reaching a few people that naturally will not listen to those kind of words.
Exactly.
Naturally. And he's using his audience for something good. We cannot judge. Even if he decides that he's doing tomorrow now, he wants to go and do drugs, that's on him. I've learned just literally take the good, take the positive, and really promote that positive and pray that, you know what, let this thing get better.
But it's hard to be discerning. Yeah. It's hard when you're young. It's hard to be discerning.
We're all real human beings. So I feel like when it comes to a point where we need to start sharing our experiences. I think as a Christian, Kanye West is not the best example, but maybe no one's an example. But then more people need to put their experiences.
No, I'm just saying people need to be careful and take it with a pinch of salt. That's it. I'm not judging Kanye. I'm not saying Kanye is not a good Christian. I'm not saying Kanye is not worshipping God on that hill every week. I'm not saying any of these. I'm just saying we need to be careful in saying, yeah, that's wicked, man. Like, you know, all Christians should watch it.
But to your point of sharing your faith, I think and to your point of sharing faith of why, you know, he's doing these other things and other Christians might look up to it, that's not a reason to stop sharing our faith. That is never a reason, because then the Bible, the message of God will never ever get anywhere because nobody's perfect. There are some days I lose it with some people. They might think, oh gosh, but at the same time, there are a lot of days where it's very conscious, the witness I have, and I think it comes to that witness, like what is your witness? And that is what is between us and God alone, no other man.
Well, to be honest, I've seen pictures, but I don't really know anything about it. So I want to ask two questions. One, is it just music, or does he preach the gospel at these events? Does anyone know?
I think it's just music.
I mean, I saw DMX preaching. I saw DMX not preaching. I saw him praying at one of them. I saw a clip.
So there's a diversity of what you would see at a traditional church service. Sometimes you have encouragement, sometimes you have exhortation, sometimes you have prayer. Once in a while, I'm sure he might have had a sermon once or twice, but it is definitely music and gospel focused.
Well, then my second question would be, is Kanye trying to be a teacher?
No.
Do you think that's
Kanye has always tried to be a teacher? What are you talking about? No. Kanye's whole mission is to be like a figurehead. He said, I want to be like Steve Jobs. He said he wants to be like Walt Disney.
So here's my point. Here's my point, okay? It says, I think, first of all, the title worship leader is nowhere in the Bible. Okay, it doesn't exist in the Bible. There was worshippers, but worship leader. So I think church on a Sunday, the worship is very important. And in our individual lives, because we're giving God worth. That's what worship means, to give something worth. And I think it's an amazing thing. We can encounter God through that. But is it church if one, there's not fellowship, and two, there isn't teaching of the gospel? Because, I mean, that's what the Bible talks about, you know, in the ecclesia, in the church. But secondly, it says that in James that not many of you should become teachers because you're judged more strictly by God. So if that's what
if you watch the videos, you will see fellowship between people who love one another.
Yeah, see, this is, I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, so I would encourage you to watch the videos. Sunday service, just hashtag Sunday service. I love Kanye, right?
I like Kanye too.
And I love him for his genius, right? He may be he may be a little bit misled, but Kanye is an absolute genius at what he does. And what he's doing right now is just expressing himself, and he's bringing some of the most anointed, most talented musicians into one room to sing gospel music. That is the gospel being preached. That is, when you release a worship song, when you're singing Fred Hammond, That is the gospel being preached to millions and millions of people. No matter how much they can, whether they take it in or not, that's the gospel being preached. And so for me, I'm not saying, I don't know, like I said earlier on, I don't know whether or not Kanye is a Christian or he's not a Christian. But for me, what I feel is that the gospel is being preached. And I feel like people are being inspired by this man who is putting millions and millions and millions of dollars of his own money into this project called Sunday Service.
In the last couple of months, the world lost one of its most talented, most informed rappers, the LA OG, Nipsey Hussle. Now, in the wake of his passing, there was a lot of support. There was just so much conversation in regards to who Nipsey was and his impact and the kind of music he made. And a particular comment that was made that really, really sparked a lot of heads online and within the culture was from the OG Jermaine Dupri when he said, when he tweeted, and forgive me because this might be verbatim, he said, "I believe that Nip was Jesus." Now, I'm not coming to ask you if Nipsey Hussle was Jesus Christ. I ain't coming to ask you that. But I do want to know if you guys think that there's a comparison between Nip and Jesus. So Nipsey died at 33 and so did Jesus. Nipsey made a good impact in LA. He invested in his people. He educated people. He loved on people. And to a degree, I think we can definitely, as people of faith, but also as humanists, agree that Jesus made impact, he informed and he loved on people. And so I'm asking, is there a comparison, is there a parallel there between Nip and Jesus?
Nobody's Jesus, man. I think we need to be careful. I feel like we need to be careful in when people die, we turn them into gods. And like mini gods, like we make them into like with small G's. Not even saints, like people do it. Like when people are talking about, forget the idea of sainthood, like people actually do it where they're like, you know what, that was that person, like, they did this and they did that. And like, my friend Victor died last year and he was 33 and he had positive impact in his community and he had all of these things. Was he Jesus? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I think we have to be careful because obviously, like, God uses people and God works through people and, like, there are angels amongst us, but, like, it makes me kind of, like, almost want to cringe when we say someone's Jesus. Like, that's a bit far-fetched.
I think the language is controversial and it can be quite uncomfortable. Martin, I'd like to ask you, would you say that, so just touching on from Femi's point, would you say that you'd feel that Jesus or that God worked through Nipsey?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like just through what Nipsey was, I don't know how much people know Nipsey from on this table, but just if you look back at just how he spoke as a person, the things that he tried to do with his family, with his community, God was definitely working through him, and I feel like the God spirit was definitely in him. But I feel like in this generation, or maybe not this generation, but we're so quick to just put labels and titles on things. Like we're so quick to like compare something to something that's come before, rather than just letting the person be the person. Nipsey was a great person. We should just hold it as that. He tried to do his thing. Unfortunately, his life was taken before he wanted it. And let's just let's take, like you were saying about taking the positives and things. We should look at what Nipsey was doing and what he was trying to do. Take the positive from that, and learn from it, and let the man rest.
I think off of what Martin was saying, I think what we fail to understand is our purpose on this earth is actually to serve each other, to serve, help, and just be of service. And I feel like Nipsey did what he's supposed to do, and we applaud him and we're inspired by him, and that's great for everyone else on this table to learn and do the same thing in their lives and help their community. But that's what you're supposed to do. I don't feel like it's something that permits you to be compared to Christ. That's our job. You have done your job. So well done, rest in peace. Thank you for teaching us on how we should be, and let's now do our part. And that's how I feel.
I totally feel you guys, I totally do. I just remember that growing up, I used to hear a lot of different things like, you always do your best and always represent well, the kingdom, because you might be the only Jesus that somebody ever meets. Now, for a lot of people, I'm playing angel's advocate, for a lot of people, they might never organically come to know Christ. They might never organically come to know about a church service, or, do you know what I mean? So when we talk about Kanye, or when we talk about Nipsey in particular, they hear a Nipsey song, and Nipsey saying every single day, keep getting up and keep trying your best, keep praying, keep walking, don't give up. And That's the first Jesus that they met. And I think I kind of propose to you guys to think on the first Jesus that you ever met. Maybe it was actually Christ and you're so blessed to have that, but for some of us, we don't have that privilege. And so for some people, I'm just throwing it out. I'm not trying to make that, I'm not trying to say he was, because I don't think that, but I think the parallel might exist in the fact that for some people, he was the first point of faith, the first point of godly principle, the first point of Christ that they ever made contact with. And I think that's what perhaps people are trying to insinuate.
I think it's not Jesus. I think it's the word you said, the first point of service, of love. Because that's the ultimate.
I'm going to round up our Nipsey segment with loving God, loving people. No?
You can never go wrong with that.
So I've got a final question for you guys. And I'm really, really keen to what you guys have to say because we're all so different. But do Christians have an obligation to the type of content that they have to make? So are there certain protocols? Is there a type of content? And is there a type of aesthetic? And is there a type of faith system that has to work in the content that we make?
I will take this as
or
a
that
tea.
Christians make, shall I say?
I think so, for the simple fact that if you have a following, you need to understand with social media, it's very easy for you to influence not one person through a conversation, but hundreds of people through one post. So yeah, definitely, I do think there needs to be some sort of moderation to what you post as a Christian. This is such a touchy subject because I don't want to go into private life.
I mean, I'd love to answer that because actually for me it's an ongoing debate that I have with myself, right? So I came into the industry, I made a film called Kidulthood that was like street kids like doing whatever. And then, you know, I've since gone on to create content myself, which like, you know, I made a film, we were talking about, me and my friend were I was on my way here and I was on the phone to him and he was talking about the fact that actually our content is we need to put ideas. We can't be overly preachy because people turn off, but we need to put ideas into our content that represent what we believe in.
And would you say that your content inspires people to think about God?
Do you know what? To be fair, like, you know, I remember when we were doing I don't know, my recent film, The Intent 2, I don't know if it does that, but I remember when we were making The Intent 1, the first one, and we were like, we knew that film was gonna work before we made it. And I kept saying to my writing partner, like, we need to put something about God in there. So we created this whole character, which is the character that I play in the film, that's like Christian and like, you know, he's like on the streets with his friends and then he drops out and starts going to church and all of that stuff. And like, we created this whole character because actually my conscience wouldn't let me rest, like in creating this film where it was about these guys just on road doing crud, like, you know, and then when we did the sequel, we weren't able to carry that through as much, but we put elements of that into it. But I felt like with The Intent 1, it was very prominent. My first film, It's a Lot, we put, it was about, there was a backstory of people, African Leukemia Trust and stuff like that. And so like for me, I feel like I find it difficult and it's something that I wrestle with in my work on an ongoing basis. However, I feel like as a Christian, part of like, you know, God gave us the ability to create. Do you get what I'm saying? Like creation, like through creating content, all of that. It's like it's almost we as humans are always yearning to create because we are like God. We were made in God's image, and God is a creator, and so we are constantly whatever we're doing. I feel like humans that do jobs that don't allow them to create, it breaks them. So like when you talk to people and they're doing jobs and they're like, oh, do you know what? I feel like a machine. I hate my job. I want another job. It's because they're not creating. And so in creation, we need to be conscious to create content that reflects God. But I don't know if I do that. I don't even know if I've ever done that.
It's a tricky one because there's one thing that I really firmly believe in, and I saw it once on an interview from T.D. Jakes, and he said that if Jesus was walking amongst us today, he would be a filmmaker. Now, I flip and reverse that as a theatre director, and I say that I think he'd work in the theatre industry, and I think, you know, for you, he might have been a dancer. I feel like he would have been a creative, and that's the essence that Femi's describing. And I want to throw it out to Junior and to Tim.
We were talking about this earlier, weren't we, Junior? Like, I think my prayer for a while had to be, God, how do I make the music? Because I'm working with a secular distribution company or label. Mm-hmm. I'm managed by secular people. I'm in the secular industry. I do sessions with secular people. I do worship stuff in church, but that's almost separate because I know that the things that I'm meant to be doing right now is not in church necessarily. I do that stuff in church, and on Sunday mornings I do worship, but I think my prayer was, God, how do I make the songs I'm writing worship to you? And he gave me this word, and I haven't really told many people this, but he reminded me of Jesus' first miracle when he turned the water into wine at the wedding, and he said, you just need to keep bringing me water and I'm going to turn it into wine. So since then I just write songs. They're not worship songs as we know it, you know, and I think there's a time and a place for that, there totally is. And there's those throne room songs, you know, where we're singing holy, 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 we join in with what heaven's saying. But there's also, people need to hear God's heart for them, and they might not be ready to hear that on a Sunday morning. So for example, I'm writing a song right now about God speaking to someone who is essentially wanting to kill themselves. And that's what the song is, a letter from God to them. And that you're not going to listen to it, and it's not going to be like a gospel song as we know it. But my music definitely needs to be worship, because everything I do, it's not just about music or when I'm on a stage or when I'm doing an Instagram story. It's my life. Yeah. What do people see behind the scenes? Do I live that perfectly? No. But I know that there's a higher calling constantly.
I think that the chasm or the bridge between the church and the marketplace is slowly closing. Because I think that we're recognizing that we're all human and we need one another. And so just because I'm a Christian, I can't rule out my humanity. No way. And so, you know, a few years ago, I was watching a documentary with Bono urging worship leaders to be more honest with their songs. And I can't tell you how much freedom that brought me, because for years and years, I've been writing some of the most honest and vulnerable songs about my life and what I go through and what I've been through. But it's been very difficult for me as a Christian, as a songwriter, as a worship leader, you know, as an artist, to talk about those things, because maybe they may be looked at as controversial. But I think that you can't rule out your humanity just because you're a Christian. But at the same time, I think that there needs to be balance, and I think that who we are as Christians, we have to learn what it means to be with God. Yeah. In our own time. And so, when I'm writing, when I'm creating, when I'm directing something, it's all onto Him. Yeah. So, so I was talking to you earlier on today about, what am I going to do to beautify the earth? Like, what can I do to make the world a more beautiful place?
And that's dope, because the way you make it beautiful is going to be so different to how Navina does it.
Absolutely.
Or what Chris is doing, or what Femi does. Do you know what I mean? Or what Martin does. And it's just exciting. And one thing that Junior said that I love is that we're all human and we all need each other. And I think that's beautiful, no?
I love Bono too, by the way.
Yeah, I like a little bit of Bono,
I love Bono.
Nah,
cool.
guys, this has been absolutely dope. We've been sharing, we've been talking, we've been vibing, and we've been talking up the things and them. So guys, this has been the Roundtable. And I'm your girl, D Moyo. Stay locked in, and let us know what you guys think.
Hey.